My name is Evelyn Carter, and until the night my family packed my life into black trash bags, I genuinely believed blood meant safety. I was 27 years old, living in the outskirts of Portland, working as a senior project coordinator for a mid-size real estate consulting firm downtown. I wasn't rich, but I was stable, organized, disciplined, quiet. The kind of person who paid bills early, saved aggressively, and never asked anyone for help. After my mother passed away 3 years earlier, I moved back into my childhood home not because I needed to, but because my father said he needed me. He said the house felt empty. He said family should stay together. I believed him. That belief would cost me everything, or so they thought. My younger sister Lena had always been different, louder, sharper, the kind of girl who believed attention was oxygen and other people were obstacles. Growing up, she learned early that tears worked better than effort, and charm worked better than honesty. When she brought her new boyfriend, Marcus, home 6 months earlier, the air in the house changed immediately. He didn't pay rent. He didn't contribute. He took long showers, ate food I bought, parked in my space, and spoke to me like I was temporary. Still, I stayed quiet. I always stayed quiet. I thought patience was maturity. I thought endurance was strength. The night it happened, I came home later than usual. It had been a brutal day, client meetings stacked back to back, zoning issues, and a developer screaming at me over a delay that wasn't my fault. All I wanted was a shower and silence. Instead, I walked into the living room and froze. My clothes were gone from the hallway closet. My shoes were missing from the rack. 3 oversized black trash bags sat near the front door, sloppily tied, sagging under the weight of my life. My laptop bag was on top, unzipped like an afterthought. Lena sat on the couch, legs crossed, scrolling through her phone. Marcus leaned against the wall, arms folded, smiling like this was entertainment. My father stood near the window, hands in his pockets, avoiding my eyes. "What's this?" I asked, though my chest already knew the answer. Lena didn't look up. "Your stuff." I laughed once, short and confused. "Why is my stuff in trash bags?" She finally raised her head, smirked, and said it casually, like she was commenting on the weather. "Marcus is moving in permanently. We need the room." I looked at my father then. "Dad," he cleared his throat. "It's time, Evelyn. You're an adult." The room felt smaller. The walls pressed in. "You didn't even talk to me." Lena shrugged. "Didn't think we needed to." I swallowed. "I don't have a place. Where will I go?" That was when Lena smiled properly, slow, satisfied. "It doesn't matter to us where you go. Just leave." The words landed harder than the bags at my feet. My father nodded, still not meeting my eyes. "You'll figure it out. You always do." Something inside me went quiet. Not broken. Not angry. Just sealed. I bent down, zipped my laptop bag, and lifted one of the trash bags. It tore slightly, spilling a sweater onto the floor. Lena rolled her eyes. Marcus chuckled. No one helped me. I carried my life out in 3 trips. No shouting, no begging, no tears. When I stepped onto the porch for the last time, my father closed the door behind me and locked it. I stood there for a moment, night air cold against my skin, trash bags at my feet, and realized something important. They thought I had nowhere to go. They were wrong. I drove away without looking back. Not to a friend's couch, not to a motel, not to panic, but to a place none of them knew existed. A place I had bought quietly, patiently, years ago. A place I never mentioned because no one ever asked. And the moment Lena would find out about that house, everything would change. Out of the house was silent when I arrived. The kind of silence that doesn't feel lonely but earned. I pulled into the driveway just after midnight, headlights washing over a modest 2-story home tucked behind tall cedar trees. It wasn't flashy. No marble fountains, no gated entrance, but it was mine. I'd bought it under an LLC 3 years earlier, right after my mother died, and I learned a hard lesson about impermanence. I parked, stepped out, and for the first time that night, I let myself breathe. I carried the trash bags inside, not with shame, but with precision. I lined them neatly against the wall, took a shower, and slept in my own bed, in a house no one could take from me. The next morning I went to work like nothing had happened. I wore a navy blazer, my hair pulled back clean, face calm. No one knew my family had erased me overnight. I handled meetings, answered emails, negotiated contracts. Control is a powerful anesthetic. Around noon, my phone started vibrating. Calls from my father, messages from Lena. I didn't answer, not yet. I wanted them to sit in the discomfort they'd created. That evening I finally checked the voicemail. My father's voice was stiff, uncertain. "Evelyn, your sister may have spoken too harshly. We should talk." Lena's message came seconds later, dripping with irritation. "Where did you go? Marcus needs the internet set up, and the bill's under your name." I smiled then. Not wide, just enough. 2 days later, Lena found out about the house. I didn't tell her. She overheard it at a family gathering she'd invited herself to, an aunt mentioning how impressed she was that I'd invested so smartly so young. Lena laughed at first, that fake brittle sound she used when she didn't understand something. Then she asked for details, square footage, location, ownership. When the answers didn't fit the version of me she'd written in her head, her face changed. That night, my phone rang again. I answered this time. "You have a house?" she screamed, skipping every greeting. "Yes," I said calmly. "Since when?" "Since before Marcus." There was a pause. I could almost hear her recalculating. "Then why did you leave like that?" "Because you told me to." Her breathing sharpened. "That house should be ours. Marcus and I need space." "You live alone." "I do," I agreed. "So you can afford it," she snapped. "You don't even have kids." I leaned back against my kitchen counter, staring out at my backyard. "I can afford it because I plan my life. That doesn't make it communal property." She lost control then. Words tumbled out: selfish, ungrateful, dramatic. She accused me of abandoning family, of embarrassing her, of making Dad look bad. When she finally paused, expecting me to fold like I always had, I said softly, "You kicked me out. You packed my things in trash bags. You said it didn't matter where I went." Silence. "I'm done explaining myself," I continued. "Please don't contact me again unless it's necessary. You think you're better than us now." She hissed. "No," I said. "I think I'm finally free." I hung up before she could respond. Over the next week, reality began to hit them. The utilities I'd quietly paid were shut off. The internet vanished. The fridge emptied faster than expected. Marcus didn't step up, he stepped out. Irritated by inconvenience, gone within 10 days. My father called again, this time apologetic, almost pleading. "Your sister's struggling," he said. "She didn't mean it." "She meant it enough to do it," I replied. The house I grew up in started to feel heavier without me. I heard later that Lena began telling people a different story, that I'd left suddenly, that I was unstable, that I'd chosen work over family. I didn't correct it. People who mattered asked me directly. People who didn't could believe whatever helped them sleep. One evening, weeks later, Lena showed up at my door unannounced. Her eyes were red, makeup smeared, confidence fractured. She looked smaller without an audience. "I didn't think you'd actually leave," she said. "I know," I answered. She glanced behind me, at the clean lines of my living room, the quiet order. Envy flickered across her face. "We should talk." "We already did," I said gently, and closed the door. That was the moment the power fully shifted, not with yelling, not with revenge, but with refusal. I didn't need their approval anymore. I didn't need to be the responsible one who absorbed everyone else's chaos. I had built something solid while they were busy underestimating me, and they would spend a long time learning what they lost when they decided I was disposable. The first letter came in an envelope I didn't recognize, handwritten, my father's old habit. I let it sit on the kitchen counter for 2 days before opening it. Not out of fear, out of choice. When I finally did, his words were careful, almost formal, like he was writing to a colleague instead of the daughter he'd locked out. He spoke about mistakes, about stress, about how Lena was going through a phase. He never once apologized for the trash bags. He never said he was wrong. He just asked if I would come to dinner, like old times. I didn't respond. Around that same time, my career took a turn that felt almost ironic. The firm I worked for won a large redevelopment contract on the east side of the city, and I was promoted to lead coordinator. More responsibility, more visibility, more money. I didn't celebrate loudly. I bought a better coffee machine. I replaced the cracked tile in my bathroom. I invested more. Quiet progress had always been my language. Lena, meanwhile, was unraveling publicly. Marcus's exit left a gap she couldn't hide behind. Friends who'd once hovered around her began pulling away when the drama stopped being entertaining and started being expensive. I heard through relatives that she'd maxed out 2 credit cards trying to maintain appearances, that the house felt empty now, too quiet, too honest. My father tried stepping in, but control without authority is just noise. And Lena had never learned how to listen. She called me late one night, drunk or close to it. "You think you won," she slurred. "But family always comes back together." I held the phone away from my ear until she finished. "No," I said when she paused. "Some families just repeat the same harm until someone leaves." She hung up on me. Weeks later, I ran into an old neighbor at the grocery store. She looked surprised to see me. "Your sister said you moved away because you couldn't afford the city anymore," she said kindly, unaware. I smiled. "I moved because I wanted peace." The truth traveled faster than the lie. It always does eventually. An aunt visited my house for the first time and cried when she saw how settled I was. A cousin asked for career advice. My name began circulating differently, not as the quiet older sister, but as someone competent, self-made. That shift terrified Lena. It exposed the difference between taking and building. Then came the afternoon she showed up again, this time with my father. They stood on my porch like guests waiting for permission. I didn't invite them in. "We're thinking of selling the house," my father said, hands shaking slightly. "Things have gotten complicated." Lena crossed her arms. "We need help." I nodded slowly. "I believe you." "So you'll help?" my father asked, hopeful. I met his eyes, steady and calm. "No." Lena's face twisted. "After everything we've done for you." I didn't raise my voice. "I didn't need to. You didn't do things for me. You did things to me. And I survived you." That was the sentence that broke something. Not anger, not cruelty, finality. They left without another word. That night, I sat alone on my back porch, listening to the wind move through the tree, thinking about how strange it was that being cast out had finally given me a place. I hadn't won anything. I'd simply stopped losing myself to people who never valued me. And somewhere inside that realization was a quiet promise. I would never again shrink to make someone else feel taller. The shift in Lena didn't come loudly. It came quietly, like a crack spreading through glass. For weeks after that porch conversation, there was nothing, no calls, no messages, no unexpected visits. I knew better than to believe it meant acceptance. Silence, with people like her, usually meant planning. The first sign arrived through my bank. I noticed it while reviewing my monthly statements, something I did religiously. A small inquiry attempt on an old joint account closed, inactive, but still traceable. Someone had tried to access it using my childhood security answers. Answers only family knew. My stomach didn't drop. It hardened. I called the bank, locked everything further, added additional verification, and documented the attempt. By the end of the call, the representative's tone had shifted from routine to careful. "You did the right thing catching this early," she said. I knew exactly who it was. 2 days later, my father called, his voice brittle. "Your sister is scared," he began, as if fear excused intent. "She feels like you abandoned her when she needs you most." I stared at the wall across from me, sunlight cutting across it cleanly. "She tried to access my finances," I said evenly. A pause, then denial, weak and automatic. "That can't be true." "It is," I replied, "and this is your warning. If it happens again, I won't handle it privately." He exhaled shakily. "She's your sister." "And I'm your daughter," I said. "You chose already." After that call, I took steps I'd avoided before, not out of fear but clarity. I changed beneficiaries, updated my will, shifted accounts. I didn't do it dramatically. I did it efficiently. Protection is not revenge. It's self-respect with paperwork. Lena escalated anyway. She began telling people I'd manipulated my way into success, that I'd used connections, that I'd lied about owning my house. She even hinted carefully, falsely, that my promotion had come from personal favors. I heard this through a colleague who pulled me aside one afternoon, uncomfortable but honest. My chest tightened then, not with shame, but disbelief. She was trying to poison the one thing she could never touch directly. So I stopped being quiet, not loud, not emotional, just factual. I requested a formal meeting with HR, presented documentation, my employment history, my performance metrics, my promotion process. Facts have weight. Lies collapse under them. By the end of the week, the rumors died the way all unfed things do, slowly, then completely. Word reached Lena faster than I expected. She showed up one final time alone. This time, she didn't knock. She stood at the end of my driveway, like she wasn't sure she was allowed closer. Her clothes were wrinkled, her posture uncertain. The confidence she used to wear like armor hung loose. "I didn't think you'd fight back," she said when I approached. "I wasn't fighting," I replied. "I was correcting." She laughed weakly. "You always think you're better." I shook my head. "No. I just stopped thinking I deserved less." Her eyes failed, not with regret, but frustration. "You could have helped me." "I did," I said, "by leaving, by showing you what happens when you burn the wrong bridge." She looked past me, at the house, the trees, the life she couldn't enter. "You don't need all this," she muttered. I met her gaze, calm and unyielding. "That's the difference between us. I didn't need it, I built it." She turned and walked away without another word. I watched her go. Not with triumph, not with sorrow, but with closure. That night I slept deeper than I had in years, because some losses are actually exits from cages you didn't realize you were living in. And the house, the one she screamed I couldn't afford, stood quietly around me, solid proof that survival, when paired with patience, becomes something far more dangerous than anger. It becomes independence. My days settled into a rhythm that felt almost sacred. I woke up early, not because I had to, but because my body no longer carried dread. I worked not to prove anything, but because I enjoyed being good at what I did. Evenings were quiet, sometimes too quiet, but I learned that peace can feel unfamiliar when you've spent years surviving noise. I stopped checking my phone constantly. No one needed anything from me anymore, and that absence, which once would have terrified me, now felt like space, room to breathe, to think, to exist without explanation. My father tried once more, months later. He asked if we could start over. I understood what he meant. He wanted access without accountability, comfort without change. I told him gently that some doors don't reopen the same way they closed. He didn't argue. I think finally he understood. As for Lena, her life kept shrinking in ways mine no longer did. She moved apartments twice in a year. Jobs didn't last. Friendships faded the moment she needed more than attention. I didn't feel satisfaction in it. I felt clarity. We had both been given the same starting line. The difference was that I learned how to build, and she only learned how to take. Sometimes I wondered if she ever thought about that night, the trash bags, locked door, the way she'd smiled when she thought I had nowhere to go. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. Either way, it no longer mattered. Closure doesn't require understanding from the people who hurt you. One evening, standing in my kitchen, I realized something quietly powerful. No one could threaten me with abandonment anymore. I had already survived it. I had already rebuilt from it. The worst thing they could do had already happened, and I was still standing. I didn't win by becoming louder. I didn't win by humiliating anyone. I won by leaving, by choosing myself, by building a life that didn't require permission. The house remained solid, quiet, mine. And every night when I locked the door, it wasn't to keep others out, it was to protect the life I had finally learned to value. Some families teach you love. Others teach you boundaries. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is walk away carrying everything you are and nothing you're not. Sometimes, the end of a story isn't loud. There is no revenge scene, No dramatic apology, no sudden reunion. There's just distance and peace. She didn't win by proving them wrong. She won by walking away, by choosing herself, and by building a life where no one could threaten her with abandonment again. Some families teach you love, others teach you strength. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is leave quietly, lock the door behind you, and never look back. If this story touched you, remember choosing your peace is never selfish.